Hey, welcome to the broadcast. Thank you so much for joining. We are going to talk disclosures today through Global Real Estate School and some disclosure questions that you need to know for the real estate exam. Now, it's going to be a very quick study. I want you to take out a pen and paper, take good notes because I'm going to cover some key points that you need to know for the real estate exam. So let's get started right now with lead-based paint information you could see on the real estate exam. Well, what does a risk assessment mean? Risk assessment. A risk assessment tells if your home has lead hazards from paint, soil, or dust. So remember, risk assessment, always equate that with it tells if your home has lead hazards from paint, soil, or dust. What about a paint inspection? Paint inspection. Well, a paint inspection tells if your home has lead-based paint and where it's located. Could you see these on the real estate exam? Absolutely. So paint inspection, again, it's going to tell if your home has lead-based paint and where it's located. Now, lead containing paint. What do we mean by lead containing paint? Well, that's lead in new dried paint in excess of 90 ppm by weight. Again, lead containing paint is going to be in excess of 90, I think that's particles per something, but that's what lead containing paint means. And lead-based paint, we want to go back there. Lead-based paint is paint with lead levels that are greater than or equal to 1.0 or more than 0.5% weight. So if you see an exam question about lead-based paint, keep these numbers down because they will be critical or key for you answering those questions correctly. Now, levels of lead in soil to be hazardous, well, play areas, it's 400 ppm, and the remainder of the yard would be 1200 ppm. That's an average. So if you see any kind of exam questions on that, that's what you need to know. And then number 6, levels of lead dust in floors, windows to be hazardous. Well, floors or carpets is at 40 mg and window sills are at 250 mg. You know, these, you just never know. You could see some exam questions that cover those numbers. But here's some other specific points you need to know about lead-based paint. First of all, it applies for rentals and sales. Okay, so rentals or actual sold transactions. But here's the key. For properties built before October 1978. Okay? They will ask you a question on the exam, and if that house was built before October 1978, then lead-based paint applies. I hope I said that correctly earlier. You do not have to have a lead-based paint form signed if the home was built after 1978, October 1978. In other words, if I'm selling you or renting, because remember, leases are covered as well, but if I'm selling you a home and it was built in 1981, we don't have to worry about doing anything with lead-based paint disclosure, okay? However, if that home was built in 1975, then yes, I need to have the lead-based paint disclosure signed by all parties, the seller or the landlord, lessor, and the buyers need to sign that. There's also a key point on that form where the buyer needs, the agent, you and I have to initial that we told our sellers the right or obligation under this. And we also have to sign the form. But there's one other key point here. The buyer or the tenant, if you're renting, needs to initial that A, disclosure's been made. If the seller has any documentation, they provided that to you, and you get the opportunity for a lead-based paint inspection over a period of time, 10-day period of time, or you can waive that inspection. Okay. So we better have that lead-based paint form signed by all parties, and the buyer needs to initial that they're either going to do a lead-based paint inspection or they will waive that lead-based paint inspection. And again, they have 10 days to have that inspection done. Now, there's one more part that you have to do, and a lot of agents drop the ball on this. I see it every day, all the time. The buyer has to initial that they received the pamphlet lead-based paint in your home. In other words, there is a pamphlet from the EPA that covers what you need to know about lead-based paint. And if you are selling or renting a home before October, that was built before October 1978, you need to give them a copy of that booklet. And like in my forms program, we can print that out, give them a copy, or you could electronically deliver that via email. But that booklet needs to be provided to the buyers, and they are initialing that they received a copy of that. So don't forget, just to recap a few of these key points, it's going to be a quick review today, but lead-based paint, you'll see some questions. It applies to properties that were built before October 1978. So any properties that you are listing, selling, or leasing, renting's covered there too, that were built before October 1978, you're going to have the lead-based paint disclosure form signed by all parties, initialed by you, and also provide the lead-based paint booklet to the buyers, as well as give them the opportunity to do an inspection or waive that inspection. So you definitely will see a question on lead-based paint. It only applies to residential, but it's both rentals and homes that are being sold. Now, I want to go back very quickly and go back through some of these items we just talked about. Levels of lead dust in floors, windows to be hazardous. Don't forget 40 mg for floors and carpets, 250 for window sills. Level of lead in soil to be hazardous, 400 in play areas. That's a lower number, 1,200 in the remainder of the yard. Lead-based paint, that is paint with lead levels greater than or equal to 1.0 and more weight of 0.5%. Lead-containing paint is lead in new dried paint in excess of 90 ppm by weight. And paint inspection tells if your home has lead-based paint and where it's located. And then remember, the last one we had was risk assessment, and that tells if your home has lead hazards from paint, soil, or dust. Well, hey, you're going to see some questions on lead-based paint. You're going to get them right now, because those would be really about any type of question they could ask you. Generally, I see the 1978. They're trying to draw you into the question to see if you remember that year, okay? But don't forget some of the other items, like providing the booklet, making sure everyone signs and signs everything, the initial by you, and some other items in that respect. Very, very important for you to do that. So I did a lead-based paint quiz that was very interesting, and I just noticed NAR took all of those quizzes off their website. So my recorded video is valuable, very valuable. I'm going to put it up next so you can go watch it next, because you'll get some great information from that site as well. So, hey, always want to say thank you so much for subscribing and looking and watching our videos. Share it with a friend. I'd love for you to do that as well. And remember, Global Real Estate School, we've got great flashcards. We have the ultimate real estate exam coach. Let me show you that real quick. There are lots of questions, lots of ways to help you pass the exam. We just revamped a lot of information on it, and you will love it. So check that out. It's all over at globalrealestateschool.com. Hey, as always, thanks for watching our live stream today. I wanted to keep it short, focused, and to the point, but you are going to pass that real estate exam on the first attempt because we want you to, and I'm going to help you do that. You reach out to me anytime you have any questions. Thanks for watching. Go out and make it a great day.